The moon, a spectral shard of pale silver, hung high above the blackened silhouette of the graven peaks, casting long shadows across the land of Aloria. Beneath its cold light, a ragtag group of adventurers stood on the threshold of destiny, their fates entwined by the whims of gods and chance. Ren Blackthorn, a human rogue with a past buried beneath layers of lies and forgotten names, knelt in the underbrush, his sharp, predatory eyes scanning the forest beyond. His face, angular and scarred, rarely betrayed emotion, but tonight, his lips curved into a mirthless smile.
The longer we wait, the closer death creeps,
he muttered, his voice a rough whisper. Ren lived for the thrill of danger. The gamble of life or death was his currency, but beneath his cynical facade there was an unspoken desperation, the quest for redemption for crimes he could never forgive himself for. Beside him, Elira Valena, a high elf sorceress, stood as still as the ancient trees surrounding them. Her silver hair, glistening like the moonlight itself, framed a face of ethereal beauty, but her violet eyes were haunted by something far darker. She raised a delicate hand and the air around them hummed with latent magic.
Patience, Ren. We only get one chance at this.
To the rest of the world, Elira was a creature of grace and wisdom, but within her burned a fierce determination. Her power, drawn from a forgotten lineage of elven gods, was both her greatest weapon and her deepest curse. She sought control over the magic that pulsed within her veins, knowing it could either save her companions or destroy them all. Behind them, in the shadows of a gnarled oak, Thornic Stonehelm paced with heavy, deliberate steps. The stocky dwarf's armor clinked with each movement, the weight of his hammer resting comfortably against his back. His brow furrowed in concentration, though there was always a flicker of impatience in his deep-set eyes.
I don't like this too quiet,
Thornic grumbled. Though blunt and often stubborn, the dwarf's heart was made of iron. He had fought for his clan, seen them fall, and now fought for the family he had found in this mismatched group of misfits. For him, the mission was simple, to protect his comrades no matter the cost. And to him, that meant charging headfirst into whatever danger awaited. Further in the clearing, Lyra, a wood elf ranger with wild green eyes and a bow slung across her back, was scanning the sky. She had a bond with the wilderness that none of the others could quite comprehend. Her every movement was fluid, like a deer stepping through underbrush without so much as a whisper.
Something's coming.
Lyra had always preferred the company of animals and trees to people. Her connection to the land was sacred, her drive to protect it even more so. But there was something else pushing her forward, a vision, a prophecy that had plagued her dreams for weeks. She knew they were headed toward a moment of great reckoning. She just didn't know if all of them would survive it. In the distance, looming like a monolith of darkness, the Fortress of Crows stood against the horizon. Its jagged towers pierced the sky, casting long, claw-like shadows that seemed to writhe and twist under the moon's light. Once a proud citadel of the old kingdoms, it had long since fallen into ruin, abandoned and left to the mercy of the wild. But now, rumors whispered that a darker power had taken residence there, something ancient and malevolent, stirring in the forgotten halls.
Do you feel it?
Elira asked, her eyes fixed on the fortress. The air around them seemed to pulse as if the very world itself was holding its breath.
Feel what? All I feel is a trap waiting to spring.
But Elira shook her head.
No, it's deeper than that. The magic here, it's wrong, twisted.
Ren's eyes narrowed as he rose from his crouch, slipping his daggers from their sheaths.
Then we'll untwist it or die trying.
None of them responded to that. The weight of their task settled over them like a shroud. They had been drawn together by a purpose none of them fully understood. But one thing was clear, they were heading into the heart of something far beyond any of their previous battles. As they moved closer to the fortress, the land beneath their feet seemed to wither, the trees becoming skeletal and twisted, their branches like fingers reaching for the sky in silent torment. The air was colder here, biting at their skin, though none of them dared complain. Every step brought them closer to the unknown, and yet none of them hesitated. In the depths of her mind, Alira could feel something stirring, an ancient voice calling out to her, pulling her toward the fortress with a sense of foreboding and destiny. She glanced at Lyra, who had stopped suddenly, her hand gripping her bow tightly. The ranger's face was pale, her eyes distant.
Lyra?
Ren asked, stepping toward her. She blinked and shook her head.
It's nothing, just a feeling.
But they all knew better than to dismiss Lyra's instincts. If the ranger felt something, it meant something was waiting for them, something that wanted them to come closer. Ren tightened his grip on his daggers.
Whatever it is, we'll handle it.
Thornik grunted, but there was a steely resolve in his eyes.
Aye, and if we can't handle it, we'll make sure it knows it picked the wrong fight.
They continued their approach, the fortress looming ever larger, the sense of dread thickening with every step. Inside those stone walls was the answer to the riddle that had plagued their journey. The fate of Aloria, the fate of their very souls, hung in the balance. But none of them knew the true scope of the horror that awaited within. High above, perched on the crumbling battlements of the fortress, something watched them, a presence unseen but felt. It had waited for centuries, biding its time, waiting for the right pawns to move into place. And now, it could feel the threads of fate tightening, drawing them all toward a single, inevitable conclusion. The night was still, too still, and the wind whispered a single word into the silence.
Soon.
As the adventurers crossed the final threshold toward the ancient stronghold, none of them could shake the feeling that, once inside, there would be no turning back. What awaited them within the Fortress of Crows was not merely a test of strength or skill, but a confrontation with their very souls. And as the doors of the fortress creaked open before them, one thing became clear. Their choices would decide not just their fate, but the fate of the world itself.